Hi, this is Mike Salander from the BC Academy, and in this video, I'm going to show you how I built the LiveChat Business Catalyst app. Quick overview of this app is that it makes the installation of the LiveChat widget by LiveChatInc.com easy. Also, it gives the LiveChat agents more valuable information when handling the client by getting data directly out of Business Catalyst. Information like number of times the customer has ordered, total order value, email, phone, and additional information. In this video, we're going to be learning about app development, Liquid, and JSON. The process for building this app is as follows. First thing we're doing is we're going to use the solid company settings as a starting point. So this is an app that we have another video on how this was created, but we're going to take the app files, we're going to start with those, and then we're going to make some updates. In step 2, we're going to update the data collection from the app user. So we need to get different information from the person using the app rather than the stuff that is in the solid company settings web app. The third is we're going to use Liquid to output the correct LiveChat install code based on the options that we want to collect from the user. The LiveChat app is available in the BC App Store, so if you want to pick up a copy of that and see how it all works, you can do so there. So for more information on exactly what the LiveChat app does, you can go over to the bcappstore.com website, go to the page, and you can see some screenshots and some features and a video walking you through the basic features. You'll notice that on the bottom right of this screen, we have a Chat Now widget. So this is using the LiveChat app that we are working on building today. If we go over to LiveChatInc.com, this is the LiveChat service that we will be using, and it does require a third-party service in order to work. So there is a paid version of it that is required in order to use this app. There's great documentation on the LiveChat website, and what we're going to be looking at is the JavaScript API today, and more specifically the tracking code section, because here are all the different parameters that we can pass in to the LiveChat agent. So I'm going to look at a couple of these now. One is we've got our license number, which is going to be required in order to hook up the account. Then we have the option to have groups. So groups allows you to manage multiple brands from one LiveChat account and put them on different websites. And we've got a variable to say, hey, do we want the history to remain across those different groups? So true or false. We can pass in basic visitor information such as the name and email, which is great. If I've got a logged in user into Business Catalyst, I'd like to pass that in so the user doesn't have to put that in there. Then we can also pass in custom variables. And here's the definition of them below. And so we're going to utilize this section to pass in a variety of information over to the LiveChat agent from Business Catalyst. Now, if we look back at the documentation or the description of the LiveChat app, you can see all of this personalized data that we're pulling in. Now, we could have added more to this list if we like, but we thought this was a great starting point. So we have name, email, device class, whether the user is logged in or not, the CRM ID in Business Catalyst, how long they've been a customer, a link over to that customer record, and then company, website, phone, customer type, industry type, and rating, the list of all the secure zones that they're in, whether or not this person is a wholesaler, the number of orders that they placed, and the total order value. So you can see that this was going to be great for e-commerce websites in particular. But we're going to make all of these configurable by the user so they can easily turn on or off that information. So I've created a blank website right now just using a Business Catalyst template. And at this point, we don't have our app installed. So the first step is I'm connecting via FTP, and I'm going to bring the Solid Company Settings app over into the website, and then we're going to make our modifications. So coming over to Dreamweaver, I've got my connection to this website, and I need to bring over that app. So I'm going to switch over to the local view, and I'm going to create my apps folder. And then I'm going to drag and drop over the Solid Company Settings app. All right, now I have this on my local. Now I need to update the app folder name to match the app key that I registered in the back end of Business Catalyst. So I'm going to update this to Solid Live-Chat. And it's going to ask, do you want to update links to the following files? And absolutely, yes, I do, because I want to make sure all of these are related to that. So I'll say update. And then if we notice, if we pull up our index file, we should now see that Solid Live Chat is in here. But I don't know necessarily if Dreamweaver made all the correct connections here. So I want to go ahead and just do a search and see if there's anything else I missed. So we'll do Solid Company Settings, and let's just see if there's anything else. Okay, so there is references to it in other spots. So Dreamweaver didn't pick up all of the areas. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to do a search and replace and say Solid Company Settings should be replaced by Solid Live Chat, and we'll replace all. And you can see that I said find an entire current local site, and that's where we're pulling in from right now. All right, so we've made those updates. I want to just save and publish now, just to make sure that I've got my app, working in the back end. Now in the back end, I'll refresh my page, and now I see an apps, and it says company settings, but the URL is Solid Live Chat, and it seems to be pulling up the app. Now I'm getting this liquid code not rendering correctly because I need to go to site settings and beta features. I need to make sure that I have liquid enabled, and then also the module name parameters enabled, and click save. Now I should be able to go back to this. Okay, great. Well, I see that I've got an app that's loading in here. I still need to make some updates so that it can be my own, right? So I'm going to do a search for company settings back here. And let's find all occurrences of that. So I'm just going to change this out to Solid Live Chat. So again, using this other app as a framework to help save me some time. Then we'll go here. Change that out. Live chat settings. And then here in the instructions file, I need to update this. So Solid Live Chat, and then say the version that it is, in this case 1.0, and then here remove Solid, and then last we are going to say what the title is in the menu. So this is in our menu.json file, so I'll call this Live Chat, and then click save. And then I will go ahead and re-upload this, and we should see all of our updates made. So now if we go to the back end and let's go to the dashboard, go back to apps, we should now see Live Chat. And now when we pull this up here, it says Live Chat settings. Great, Solid Live Chat, perfect. Okay, obviously my documentation needs to be updated. We're not gonna worry about that in this video. I'm gonna concentrate more on the actual app development side rather than putting together the documentation. All right, so in this app, I don't want to collect this information. I want to collect other information instead. So I want to basically give people the toggle for every one of these options in the system, or more specifically, pretty much every one of these options, because you might not want to pass all of these things. So I kind of want to toggle for each of these, and then I need to collect other information, like I need to get the license from someone, and then I also need to get the group number from someone if they want to use groups. All right, to save us time, I have pasted in the updated form for the index file. So what we can basically see here is that we've got very simple form. We are putting things into paragraphs, and then we've got a label, and then we've got an input field for it. Now, just like the other app, our name of the field is going to be very important, because this is what, using the JavaScript, we're going to grab the name, we're going to serialize the form, which basically says we're going to store a JSON object, well, serialized goes to an array, and then we're going to store it into JSON, but basically we're going to create a JSON whose name is going to be this, and whose values end up going to be this. So the name will end up determining the liquid tag that gets used. And you can see that the value here, we're going to be placing, we're going to be reading from this JSON file that we're going to be setting. We're going to be reading back that value so we can put it back in here, so that the user does not have to re-enter their information every time they want to make an update. The other thing that I've done is, for these checkboxes, I have put a little if statement in here. And I said, okay, if this setting exists in the file, then that means this has been checked. That means the user has gone and checked it previously. And so then we're going to set the checked property equal to checked within the input tag. And we're setting the value equals to true for all of these. So what we've done is I've just grouped them by things that made sense to me, things that are session data versus customer data versus e-commerce data. And if we go ahead and look at the final result, we will get this. Now, the liquid tags are not rendering yet because we haven't modified the definition of this, which we'll do in a second. But the first thing I want to do is I want to modify my CSS to make this look a little bit better, because it looks like our names are not getting fully shown here, our labels. So I'm going to go ahead and inspect element, and I'll find out that this CSS that we were using may not really work that great in this situation, and I kind of want to find out why. So I'm going to inspect this element and look at the label, and I'll see, okay, we really don't need that width in there. That width of 80 is really preventing these things from showing up. But then I'm also noticing that I'm getting a little tight of my labels with my input fields here. So I might want to throw another margin in here of 10 pixels, so that I can get a little bit more spacing to the right of the labels as well. So these are the only two changes I need to make to my CSS. So I'll go ahead and I can see that in my app.css on line 90, I'm going to remove the width of 80 pixels and add that right margin to the form labels. So I will go ahead and make that update now. So scroll down to line 90. I'm going to remove this width, and I'm going to add 10 pixels here. We should be able to save this and publish, and refresh the page, and we should be getting the same thing. Oh. And there we go. I had to do a hard refresh in order to get those settings to come in there. So here you can see we've got our live chat settings where we need to put in the license number and the group ID, and then our visitor details, customer variables broken out into session, customer, and e-commerce data. All right, going back to our index file, I noticed that our liquid settings are not rendering, and that's because my include file here is not this company.inc is not defined for these elements yet, and that's going to happen in the JavaScript. So this actually won't be defined when it's fully put up, but we need to define this collection that we're calling. So if we go over to our data and company, let's look at what's going on here at data and company. We see that we're referencing this setting here, which is site settings.json. And now in this setup, I'm not even going to use the include here. I'm just going to go ahead and put directly into the file our reference to our JSON. So I'm going to come back here. I'm going to place this right here. And then what I'm going to do is, instead of calling this site settings, I'm going to call this live chat settings. And I'm going to call this collection, instead of company, it's going to be called live chat settings. And now that I've named this collection live chat settings, now these variables become available to me. So of course, what's going to happen is we're going to read this JSON file, and its properties are going to get stored against this collection. And so then I can read those properties, those elements, by doing live chat settings dot and then the element I want to pull. So I need to make that update to the index file. But really, the next thing we need to do is go over to our JavaScript file, and here we need to update it so that we're storing it in the right place. So let's look at our JavaScript, and I'm not going to go through this one in detail. If you want to know exactly what this is doing, please watch our other video on how to create the solid company settings app. But what I want to do here is I want to change this instead of site settings. I'm going to do live chat settings, and then this is good here, solid live chat. And I think that's really, instead of company information, I just will say maybe information. There's an error updating your information. I'll just get rid of company to make that relevant there. And then we can click save and update. So real high level overview of what this is doing is it's taking all the data in the form, and it's serializing it, which basically puts it in an array. Then we're converting it to a JSON object. We're then converting it to a string, and then using the Business Catalyst SDK to create a new file with that string, which is all the JSON data. That's essentially what is happening here, and then this down here just deletes the app. All right, so if we come back and do a hard refresh, we should see that those Business Catalyst now recognizes that collection, but nothing is rendered because we don't have any data there. But if we just put in, let's just make up stuff right here, and then we checked a couple of these guys, and then click save, and then come back to the app, we can see that those values are retained. And of course I can uncheck that one and check this one and click save, and come back in and just verify that again. Those are being retained. So let's look at what's happening behind the scenes. So this file has created another file in the system, and I need to go to my remote server to see it because it's not downloaded in my local. And we'll go over to data, and we'll see our live chat settings.json. And you can see what's happened here is that we've now stored the values into this JSON object. So here's our license number, our group, so on and so forth. And that makes us able to call it from our file over here, live chat settings.license, for instance. I'm going to go ahead and delete out my site settings.json. I don't need that. And then I don't need my company rich INC files anymore, so I can delete those out. Okay, so we've really taken care of the first step here, which is getting the correct information from the user. We just now need to update it so that we actually do something with this information. So this is where the documentation comes in handy. And my recommended first step is just to get the live chat install code working with like hard-coded values in there and making sure that information gets passed. And if it's not, then you need to settle that before trying to integrate it in with Business Catalyst. But just for demonstration purposes here and to save time, we're going to do them both in the same step. And of course, this has already been done, so we know that this works already. All right. But what I'm going to do though is I'm going to start by creating the file, kind of the file hard coded, and then we're going to put in a bunch of liquid statements to make it dynamic. Okay. So in my underscore data file, I'm going to create a new file called LiveChat.inc, and this is an include file. And in this include file, I'm going to render the JavaScript that I need in order to make things happen. And so I'm going to go back over to my documentation, and I'm going to say, all right, I need my live chat. I need this first part of the script, right? And so we're going to come back. We'll paste this in here, and then I need my next part, which is the license number. And you can keep you can pull in the comments if you want, but in my case, I'm not going to. And then I want the group. We're just going to copy these over, so we've got kind of all the variables we want. Copy this over. And then this whole visitor information. And then my parameters, my custom parameters. And then the final function here that kind of pulls it all together. So this ultimately would pass to the live chat agent, the license number in group 1 that doesn't share the data across the different groups, Joe Public, name, etc. And here's his custom fields. So this should work if that was placed onto the page, and but this is not good because we want to change out the data. All right, a couple of things that we're going to do. One is I don't really want to do all my statements to check for name and email and that kind of stuff inside of this definition here. I'd rather do my checks in one place and then just I'll assign it once. So what will happen is if we look at the data structure here of visitor and of params, visitor is an object. So this is JSON, right? And so we've got a name here and a value of Joe Public, and so on and so forth. But the params is a little bit different. It's an array of objects. All right. So the way that we are going to define these is going to be a little bit different. So basically, if you look at it, it's basically like putting this guy right here. The formatting is just a tiny bit different, but the same would be true. Okay, so we'll get rid of that because we don't need it there. All right, so what we want to do is in the top of our file, so up here, we're going to do a couple things. We're going to say our var of visitor data equals an object, and var of custom chat variables equals an array. All right, and what we're going to do is we're going to do a series of checks to see if the customer wants the data, and then we'll find the data, and then we'll store it into either the object or into the array of objects. Now, in order to do all of our liquid checks, I'm going to need to pull in that same script I had from my index file here. That's going to read from that file so we know what settings the user wants to have for this app. So this is going to be placed up here, and our collection is called live chat settings. Okay, so before actually getting into all the other liquid if statements, I don't even want to output this entire script if the customer hasn't entered in the license number, because none of this is going to execute, and it's just going to either error out or it's just going to be unnecessary code. So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to wrap this entire JavaScript in a liquid if statement that says if live chat settings dot license, meaning does this property exist in the file? And if it does, then we will render this whole thing. If not, then nothing will get outputted in this file, which is just a good fail-safe here for us. All right. First thing I want to do is the easiest one, which is the license number. So we just want to throw this in here, and the way that we read it from the file is, remember, if we look at this, it's going to be LiveChat settings dot license, and that will give us this number right here. So if we go and do that, so we're going to put that right here. That's going to LiveChat settings dot license. That's going to render out that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or whatever my license number was. So that's pretty easy. We don't need to really do an if statement around that because we've got an if statement around the entire code for it. The next easiest thing is probably the group. So what we're going to do is these two data points right here are only necessary if someone's entered in a group ID. So I'm going to wrap this whole thing in an if statement that says if that exists, if the user has entered in a number, then we are going to assign these. But I need these to be dynamic, right? So I need to pull in the group number, which is going to be LiveChat settings.group. And if you're wondering how I know that, well, I just need to look at the name of the input field on the form, because whatever this is, our JavaScript is going to make that the name of the item inside of our JSON, as you can see here with group. Okay, so we're going to say LiveChat settings.group is going to render that, and then I'm going to say if LiveChat settings.chat groups. So if they've decided that they want to hide the history, because by default it will carry across, then we're going to set that to false. And I don't need to do an else statement that says, set it to true, because by default I know the LiveChat documentation tells me that it's true. So I only need to do it if it's false. So if it's selected, it means that they want to set it to false, and then we're going to do that. Okay. So we're in pretty good shape here. We've got this set up, and this is really going to be the similar principles that we apply to our visitor data and our custom chat variables, but it's going to be a little bit more difficult sometimes to get that data, and we're going to walk through that. And of course, down here, I'm not going to define all the elements here. Instead, I'm going to just assign it to my variables that I've defined up here, which is visitor data, and custom chat variables, which is down here. So these statements have now been updated to that. So now the series of checks that we're going to do now is to see, okay, does the user want it? And if so, then let's grab the information and then let's assign it to one of these variables. So the first one is that what we'll do is one of the easier ones, and that is to say the device class. So we're going to say if LiveChat settings.device class, so that the user has selected that they want this, we're going to say custom chat variables.push. So this push adds an element onto the array. So there's nothing in the array at this point, so it's just going to be the first element. And then we're going to define the object, and we're going to say the name device class. So this is what actually shows up in LiveChat, and then the value is going to equals this. And so this is a liquid variable that is a global variable, and it's globals.visitor.device class. And you might be wondering how I know to do that. Well, we can go to, let's say, any page on the website. Let's just pull up the home page, for instance. And at the bottom, I'm just going to say, I'm going to put in this JSON. And we can hit save and update. And so my goal here was, what information can I get just that is in global variables that I don't have to do like extra work in order to get? Now this looks a little messy. I like to view the page source, or you can put in a pre-formatted tag in HTML. But I'm just basically scanned through all of this and said, what information can I pull from this that a chat user might want to know? Now here I have visitor and device class. So you can, in order to call this, we're gonna follow it back up the object tree. So we can see device class underneath visitor, and visitor is underneath globals. And I can just call anything in here by just saying the first element name, so globals dot visitor dot device class. So that's what I'm doing. in this statement right here when I go back to my JavaScript that I'm working on. So here we can see globals.visitor.device class. Great. And then I'm ending my if statement. All right, then that's pretty much the only information that we can get unless the user is logged in. So I'm going to be putting everything else into an if statement called if globals.user.is logged in. So if that's true, then we're going to check for other stuff, because I don't want to waste time trying to check for other stuff if I know that the system's going to give me back incomplete data or no data. So we're going to just wrap everything in this. So the next couple ones are going to be the name and the email that I'll grab. So we're just doing a quick check again to see if the user wants those. And then for this, it's a little bit different than adding it to the custom chat variables, because it's not an array, it's just an object. So I can just tell exactly the name of that item, that property in the object. So visitor data of name equals the globals.user.firstname, and visitor data of email equals etc. The next one is going to be the logged in. So this is going to be very similar, where I'm going to add, this is a custom variable that I'm going to just push onto that array, and this is another global variable that I can find. And same thing with the CRM ID. There's another global variable that I can easily pull from that data and add it onto that variables. All right, the next is information that I cannot grab from globals, but we're going to use a module data in order to easily grab this information. You could also use the API within Business Catalyst, but I also want to recognize that I don't necessarily want to call this module data and take up some processing time if the user hasn't selected any of the settings that are going to require that module data call. So I'm going to put this if statement around it to say, hey, if the user wants any of this information, then we're going to do the following. And the following is we are going to make this module data call. So module underscore data, and we define the resource to be customers, and the API version we're using is version 3. And we say we want the company, create date, work phone, and web address back. And the resource IDs, we need to pass in the ID of the person who's logged in, which we already know how to grab that. We've done it in a previous step. And then the skip 0, none of this really matters, the skip 0 or limit 10, or the order ID, because we're just grabbing one person. And then the collection is important. We're gonna store this data into a variable called customer. So I'm gonna copy a few more statements down here, which will complete this. And so now again, we want to do another check to make sure that the customer wants that data, and we'll push it onto the variable, and we can now grab the information out of this customer collection. So customer.webaddress.value, customer.workphone.value, etc. Now you might be wondering how I know to call this exactly like that. And so if you are wondering that, let's go ahead and show you how I know what that is. In order to do that, I need to make sure I've got a person who is logged into the front end of the website. Now I'm going to do that outside of the video and then come back and be logged in and show you what happens. All right, now I'm logged into the website. So I'm going to be able to render that customer, that module data with that customer information and output it, but I need to update my homepage files in order to show it. So instead of the module, or this JSON that I'm outputting, I'm going to put in the module data. So I'm going to take the same call I did here, and I'm going to put this right here. And we can throw this in the pre, so we can see it a little bit more formatted, or I like to view source typically anyways. But so let's output this, and let's come back here and hit refresh. And let's view our source. And it's not rendering, so let's see what's happening. Oh, because this is just the call, and I need to actually output the data. So I need to do customers of in JSON. So let's refresh. And we're still getting a null here. It's because I called it customers plural. It's just customer. And refresh. Great. So now I can see all the data. So when I call it customer, then that anything underneath this becomes available at dot, customer dot, and then this. So if I look at the parameters, I can see I've got some information about this person, but the company is blank. I don't have a whole lot of information about this person, which is not ideal, but it's because I don't have this information in the back end. So if we come back over here and we add a phone perhaps, and maybe have some information. Let's come back and look at this data. All right, now that I'm logged in and I've outputted the customer collection on the page, I can see some more information about this user. I can see the company, so I know that's going to be available at customer.company. And I can see the create date here as well, but it's in this format, so we're going to want to change that to be a little bit more readable by humans. And then I can see that work phones here are actually another object, work phone and web address. So in order to get this element out, I'm going to do customer.workphone.value, because that's where my actual phone number is. Same thing with the web address. So that's why when I come back into this file, or back to the include file rather, you can see that I need to do customer.workphone.value, web address.value. And then for the create date, I want to format it so that it's readable. So I'm going to have the month, and then the day, and the day actually, sorry, and then the year itself right here. So that's how look up liquid string or date manipulations, and you'll see how to format it like that. So I personally like to go to the liquid cheat sheet and look that up. Okay. So then we're going to end our if here, which we did. And then we are going to start new if statements. And these are going to be some of the other variables that are available to us in the globals. And that is these three elements right here. Now the order of this doesn't really matter other than the order that you want it to display in LiveChat. So I've chosen that some I think are more important and should be a little bit higher than others. So I'm not going to go over this specifically. Again, just some other global variables we can pull in relating to customer type, industry type, and rating type. The next thing is I want to see if they have, if they want secure zones to be outputted. So if they do, then we are going to run another module data, or sorry, not another module data, but we're going to run another module tag called module subscriptions and store that into a collection called secure zones, so we can see what secure zones a user is a part of. And then we are going to do a little bit more advanced technique here in Liquid that I will show you that basically helps us get the list of secure zones exactly how we need it. And so you're like, Mike, what do you mean by that? Well, let's go back to our home page and let's pull this in here instead, and we're going to say secure zones and render this JSON. Okay, so we go and output this and go to our front end and refresh. You'll see that we're getting the values here in an items array. So we've got that I'm part of this one that's members only area, and we got that we're part of this account zone. but I can't seem to get anywhere just like a simple list of all the ones that I'm a part of. They're fragmented out. So I'd like to really just return a comma separated list to the chat agent about what secure zones this person is a part of. So we need to do a little bit of manipulation here in Liquid with variables. So we're going to come back and I will show you what we're going to do. All right. So we need to essentially loop through the items that we're getting returned here from in this collection. All right. So, and we need to add on to a variable every time that we, that we come across a new one. So we're going to store, assign a variable called secure zone list and just set it to an empty string to start. And then we're going to loop through the items here. So secure zone.items refers to this this element right here, which is an array of items. So in Liquid, we can come back here and we can say secure zone.items. So this is an array, and then we can define what the element is called, what each item in that array is called, and so I just called it secure zone. So then we need to do a capture statement inside of this loop. So we can indent this so you can see a little bit better. This capture statement in Liquid just takes anything inside the begin and end capture statements and assigns it to a variable. So what we're doing is we're saying we're outputting the secure zone list, so what's currently there, which is the string, and then we're adding onto it a the current secure zone that we're in dot zone name, which we can see previously is how we call it, and then we're going to say unless the for loop dot last, so this is a property of the for loop in Liquid we can call, so unless it's the last element in this item, in this array, we're going to output a comma and a space in between it. So this will comma separate the items, we'll end the capture, we'll end the for, and then we can say custom chat variables dot push, and we're going to push our secure zone list array on there. Then of course we need to end our if. The next item is going to be another straightforward statement. It's just if someone is a wholesaler or not. But then the one after this is going to be similar to what we did with the secure zones, but it's going to be for order information. And the reason is Business Catalyst doesn't give us the total amount that someone has ordered directly out of the website, and so we have to scan through all the orders and add up that value. So this next piece of code that I'm placing here is basically just saying, hey, do they want either num orders or total order value? Because if they do, then we need to make another call to module data, and we need to grab this information about the orders of this particular person, and we're going to store that against a collection called all orders. And then for the num orders, it's great because the data that gets returned, there's a property just called total items count, so I can know how many orders there are. So that one's simple. But we need to do something similar for the, like I said, like the secure zone list for the total order value. So if we want total order value, we're going to assign a variable called total value equals to 0. And then for this time we called it item, but it could have been called orders. But for item in all orders.items, we are going to capture the total value. And this time we've got to do something a little bit different because we need to add numbers rather than adding strings. So we have a Liquid statement in here that takes the item.total_price, so the price of the current order, converts it to a number, and then adds on the previous total value. So this is a way for us to add a variable onto itself, for each loop. So then we're ending the capture, we're ending the for, and then we're pushing that total value. And then last, we've got on here our link to the Bc Crm. Now this is another capture statement where we're going to say, okay, I know that the link is going to start with HTTP, and then I can grab the URL of the site by going to globals.site.host, and then I know the path to the CRM is always like /CRM/members details, etc. and there's a URL parameter called entity ID where it puts in the ID of the person in the CRM, and entity type equals 1001. And so this will basically build my URL, which I can then pass into the system, and someone can click on it and take you right to the CRM record. And that is it. So once we publish this, we need to actually install it on our website to know that this will work. So we will go to our templates and go to our home page. So to install this, we're going to put an include file that refers to that LiveChat.inc file that is outputting that's creating the JavaScript. So we'll save and update this. So behind the scenes, I entered in a valid license number and a group ID for the live chat, and you can see that I now have a chat window installed on my website. Now I can pull this up and initiate a chat.
New visitor in the queue.
Now in my live chat app, you can see this visitor, Michael Salander, and you can see all this information about me getting passed into the system. So here's my total number of orders, my total order values, a link over to that CRM record, so on and so forth. So I can validate here that this installation is working correctly. So the last thing that I did was I created a -min version of my file because you'll see that here when I output this JavaScript, it has a lot of kind of broken spaces and stuff in here. And so the last thing I did here was I'm going to create a -min version which condenses the liquid statements that I outputted, because you'll see here that this code is a little messy. And so if we go back into this file, I did a lot of this formatting here so that I can kind of visually see how it all lines up. But this is not, it doesn't output the greatest. So I wanted to have another version that is a condensed version that will output the code much cleaner. And so I could update all of this, kind of take out the spacing and stuff, and have it look like this and get a cleaner output of code. But I kept both versions in there to make it easier for me to update and to teach when distributing the app. So you'll see a LiveChat-min.inc and a LiveChat.inc. They're the same thing. It's just the -min does not have the formatting of the code to make it easier to read. Well, thank you for watching this video on how I created the LiveChat Business Catalyst app. I hope this serves as a great example of how to use Liquid, JSON, module data tag, and also how to build apps within Business Catalyst. And that it can be easy to build apps, and there's a lot of possibilities out there. And you can start from things that you've already done, quickly modify them, and change them for a different implementation. Now, put a reminder in here that it is not okay to do that for other people's apps from other developers in the App Store. But the App Store has announced that the apps that they release can be used as frameworks or starting points for other apps. And of course, anything that you've already created, you can do that as well. So thanks for watching. This is Mike Salander with the BC Academy.